Hello everyone, I am Nemas Sacher. Today we are going to discuss two main topics which are very important in software industry. They are SDLC and Agile Model. Okay, so to begin with, let's first we discuss about SDLC. So the SDLC is an acronym for Software Development Lifecycle. SDLC is a well-structured approach that helps software developers and project managers ensure the delivery of high-quality software and products. It is a systematic process that guides us to the different stages of software development, ensuring that we meet or exceed customer expectations. Also, to stay within time and the budget constraints. Throughout this video, we will be diving into each phase of the SDLC, exploring how it contributes to the successful software development. So, we will first note down the important points here about SDLC. So, to define with the SDLC, we can say that SDLC is a structured approach used by software industry to develop and deliver high quality software. The main goal is to meet the customer expectations while delivering the software on time and within budget. SDLC includes several distinct phases. In total, seven. They are planning, second is requirement analysis, third one is design, fourth one is coding, fifth one is testing, sixth one is installation, or in other terms, deployment, and the last seventh one is maintenance. Okay, so we will go through each of these stages one by one. So the first phase is planning. So the planning phase is where we define the project scope, set goals and objectives, and conduct a feasibility study. The feasibility study helps us assess whether the project is technically, operationally, and economically viable. We also create a detailed project plan that outlines the resources needed, a timeline, as well as the key milestones. Okay, so let's note down these points. In short, it involves identify the scope, goals, and objectives of the product, of the project, let's say. It also involves conduct conducting a feasibility study to assess technical, operational, and economic aspects. It also involves creating a project plan that involves outlining of resources, timeline, and milestones. Okay, so this was all about planning stage. So let's move on to the next. It is requirement analysis. So in this phase, we gather detailed requirements from stakeholders, which can include clients, end users, or others involved in the project. The goal is to document these requirements clearly, which is done through the creation of a software requirement specification, SRS, or SRS document. This document serves as a guideline for the rest of the project. So let's uh, let's mention these points in short. Gather requirements from the stakeholders. Stakeholders are nothing but the clients, end users, etc. In requirement analysis, we document the requirements clearly and in detail. Also, the important point, we create a software requirement specification. So let's move on to the next. This was all about requirement analysis. So the third stage is design. So design is a phase where we translate the requirements into a blueprint for the system. We start with high-level design, which defines the overall system architecture and data flow. Then we move on to the low-level design, where we focus on the detailed design of each component or module. Design documents are created to guide the development team in the implementation phase. So let's note down these points. So the two important terms in design are high level design and low level design. So high level design or HLD, it defines the overall system architecture and data flow. The second one is low level design or LLD, which which focuses on detailed design for each component, or we can say module. In brief, we create design documents outlining the architecture, modules, and components. So this was the short introduction of design. We discussed that there is high level design, low level design, which focuses on the system architecture in detail uh, as well as in overview form. So let's move on to the next fourth one. So it's up coding. So it is a stage where developers write code based on the design documents created in the previous phase, that is the design phase. It's important to follow coding standards and guidelines to ensure code quality. Once the code is written, it is built, compiled, and integrated into the system. So let's note down the points. In this, developers write the code based on the design documents. During doing so, we follow coding standards. We follow coding standards and guidelines. In this phase, the code is built, compiled, and integrated. So let's move on to the next phase, that is testing. So after coding, the next phase is testing, uh, which involves the software to go under testing to identify and fix any defects. So we start with the unit testing, which focuses on individual components. Then we proceed to integration testing, where we test the interactions between integrated modules. In this, it also involves System testing checks the entire system to ensure it works as expected. Finally, user acceptance testing or UAT, which ensures that the system meets the end user requirements. So let's note down these important points from this. The unit testing, also known as component testing, which involves testing individual components or modules. It is primarily done by the developers. Okay. The next point is integration testing. In this, we check the data flow between the two or more modules. So we can say test the interaction between integrated modules. The third point, system testing. In system testing, we test the entire system as a whole. And the last point that we discussed is user acceptance testing, which is done to ensure the system meets the user requirements. So the sixth is deployment. So in this phase, so the deployment phase is the process of delivering the software to the production environment where it will be used by end users. This phase also involves preparing for deployment in different environments, such as development, staging, and production. It's essential to have a deployment plan and checklist to ensure a smooth transition. So let's write down here. In deployment, we prepare for deployment in various environments, such as development, staging, production, etc. In this stage, we deploy the software to the production environment. And the third thing, we create a deployment plan and checklist. So we are done with the 6 steps. We are left with the last one, that is maintenance. Okay, so the maintenance phase involves regularly maintaining the software to ensure it runs smoothly, fixing bugs, providing updates, and enhancing features based on user feedback. Ongoing maintenance ensures that the software continues to meet user needs over time. So let's note down the point here. Perform regular maintenance to keep the software running smoothly. In the maintenance phase, we fix the bugs, provide updates, and enhance features based on user feedback. In the maintenance phase, we also ensure the system continues to meet user needs. So this was a brief overview of the SDLC phase, of the SDLC phases. So SDLC has many models since past few years. There is waterfall model, there is uh, spiral model, there is prototype model. So there is V&V model, that is verification and validation model. So these these models were developed over the period of time in last couple of years. Some had many positives, some had drawbacks. So the current trending and the most popular model is Agile model, which is being adopted by many companies. So it's important to understand what the Agile model is and how it works. So we want to discuss it now. So earlier there was a waterfall model, and the difference between the Agile model and waterfall model is the flexibility. So Agile is iterative and customer centric, allowing for frequent changes and adaptations. On the other hand, the earlier waterfall model is linear and sequential, which makes it less flexible and harder to change once the phase is completed. So when we want to differentiate agile versus traditional waterfall model, so agile, we can see it is flexible, iterative, customer centric, and adaptive to change. Okay, and the waterfall model is linear, sequential, less flexible as compared to agile, and harder to change. Means when during the process, if the customer wants some change in his requirements, so we cannot adopt that in waterfall model. So Agile model has frameworks. The most popular two frameworks are Scrum and Kanban. Okay, so first we will discuss about Scrum. So Scrum is one of the most widely used agile frameworks, and it's organized around specific roles, ceremonies, and artifacts. The Scrum Master facilitates the Scrum process and helps remove any impediments that might block the process or progress. So the product owner represents the customer and is responsible for defining and prioritizing the product backlog, which is essentially a to-do list for the project. To continue, the development team is responsible for delivering potentially shippable product increments at the end of each sprint. So a sprint is nothing but a short cycle while developing the software. It is usually of 2 to 4 weeks. So Scrum ceremonies include the daily stand-up where team members quickly discuss their progress, any challenges they face, and what they plan to do next. Sprint planning is where the team plans the work for the next sprint, which is typically a 2 week period. Sprint review happens at the end of the sprint, where the team demonstrates what they have accomplished to stakeholders. Finally, there is the sprint retrospective, where the team reflects on the sprint that just concluded and discusses the ways to improve in the next one. The Scrum artifacts include the product backlog, a prioritized list of everything that might be needed in the product. The sprint backlog is a list of tasks selected from the product backlog to be completed during the sprint. The burn down chart visually shows the amount of work remaining in the sprint, helping the team to stay on the track. Okay, so for the Scrum framework, we from this discussion we will note down the important points. First, we will discuss about the roles of the Scrum team members. So the first is Scrum Master. Scrum Master facilitates the Scrum process and removes impediments. Product owner represents the customer and also defines the product backlog. The development team are actually the developers who create the product. So the ceremonies in Agile Scrum framework are daily stand-up, a short daily meeting to discuss progress and roadblocks. The another ceremony is sprint planning, which is a meeting to plan the work for the next sprint. The third one is sprint review, which is a review of what was accomplished during the sprint. And the last one is sprint retrospective, which is a meeting to reflect on the past sprint and suggest improvements. And there are artifacts such as product backlog, which is basically prioritized list of stories and requirements. Also, we can say features and enhancements. The second is sprint backlog, which is a list of tasks to be completed during the sprint. And the another one is burn down chart, which is a graphical representation of work left to do versus time. So this was about the Scrum framework, and let's discuss about another framework, that is Kanban. So the another popular Agile framework is Kanban. Unlike Scrum, Kanban focuses on visualizing the workflow and managing work in progress, that is WIP. The key tool in Kanban is the Kanban board, which typically has columns like to do, in progress, and done. Tasks move from one column to the next as they are worked on. Kanban is all about continuous delivery and doesn't rely on fixed interactions like Scrum does. Instead, tasks are completed and delivered whenever they are ready. So we note down the important points from this. The Kanban framework focuses on visualizing work, managing flow, and limiting work in progress, or we can say WIP. Kanban framework uses a Kanban board with columns like to do, in progress, and done. And lastly, it emphasizes continuous delivery without fixed interactions, or you can say without fixed iterations. Okay, so this was all about Scrum frameworks. I hope you all have got a brief idea about the Scrum framework as well as the SDLC model. So thanks for listening. Have a good day.